Good evening. I'd like to call the meeting of the National Board of Education to order. It is 7:07 p.m. on Monday, March 11th, 2019. If the clerk could please call the roll.
Mrs. Oden?
Here.
Ms. Raymond?
Here.
Mr. Kaufman?
Here.
Mr. Mosher, we could not get Mr. Mosher on the phone. I'll try him later. Ms. Van Twyver?
Present.
Mr. Guarino is here. Ms. Hohensee?
Here.
Ms. Timmons?
Here.
Ms. Porter?
Here.
Mr. Eid?
Here.
Ms. Scales?
Present.
Also with us is Ms. O'Gara, Mr. Donovan?
Here.
And Dr. McKinney?
Here.
And Ms. Fitzpatrick?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Guarino. If you could please lead us in the prayer, and Ms. Scales, if you wouldn't mind leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please stand. Almighty God, we have the high honor and the serious duty of managing the educational institutions of our beloved city. In our common endeavors, may we find a spirit of unity and understanding which will enable us to face our multiple problems with an objective mind, with justice and charity for all, so that any and all decisions made by us will be for the betterment and greater happiness of all of our fellow citizens. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody. So I had placed the JROTC on the agenda under new business, but with the consensus of the board, I'd like to move it so that they can go first. We have quite a large number of students here, and I'd like to recognize them before we do any other board business this evening. Any objections? All right, seeing none, we can proceed. Dan, did you show him how to use the microphone?
Push for start. There we go.
Okay, if you could just introduce yourself and...
Yep, sure.
Ms. Scales, would you mind hitting the lights? Thank you. Perfect.
That's good.
Can we have one light on?
Thank you.
So good evening, everybody. Members of the board, Superintendent Mosley, thank you for taking the time to meet with us. For those of you that don't know, my name is Major Brian Newton. I have Master Sergeant Nick Ellis here and Cadet Colonel Adam Landry behind me. We are presenting you with a proposal for a Marksmanship Leadership Development Requirement, commonly referred to as an LDR, as part of the Air Force JROTC program. Leadership Development Requirements, or LDRs, formerly known as co-curriculars, contribute to experiential learning and the type of program that attracts, retains, and grows cadets. A strong unit with a breadth of opportunities entices and retains cadets. The opposite is true for units that are essentially classroom only. This year, the unit assessment report, which is our inspection report, includes a director's special interest item regarding LDRs, the number of LDRs and the type of LDRs. Most cadets stay in the program because of the extras, like LDRs, the program offers. I think you'll find from the presentation that a marksmanship LDR adds to the program on multiple levels. With that.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, all. I am Cadet Colonel Adam Landry, and I'm currently the Group Commander of the Air Force Junior ROTC program here at Nashua High School North. Through my experience in the program, it has opened me up to a plethora of amazing opportunities, and here for you tonight is another one of those opportunities that we would like to implement and expand into our Junior ROTC program, that being the Marksmanship LDR. First and foremost, safety is the #1 goal and priority not only maintaining safety, but also teaching safety through our marksmanship LDR program. And ultimately, it will be open to all cadets, given that they pass and maintain all the academic required standards for it. Ultimately, it'll be designed to teach life skills to our cadets between discipline, responsibility, and the rewards of working hard and getting great accomplishments through that, and ultimately stressing the importance of practice in something that is going to be a very active and very engaging activity for our cadets. Just some back history for you here on the marksmanship program. In 1916, Army ROTC was founded, which included small bore marksmanship program. From the 50s to 60s, marksmanship declined, but in 1964, Air Force Junior ROTC was founded, and with that, the Marine Corps and Navy Junior ROTC programs implemented rifle programs. In the 1990s, the three-position air rifle competition program was developed by the National Three-Position Air Rifle Council. In 2004, they went through a few more stand-downs in the Army and Navy programs, but after revamping and standardizing safety training and marksmanship program, they implemented new marksmanship instructor courses, and ultimately in 2006, the Air Force Junior ROTC marksmanship program was created. Ultimately, our goal through the process of the marksmanship program, our goal today is to receive district approval for our program. From there, we are looking to get a signed memorandum of understanding from Principal Burns, who have already received verbal approval of this program. He has seemed to stress some interest in it. So hopefully from here, he will then choose to give us his written consent. Following that, the instructors, both Major Newton and Sergeant Ellis, and Master Sergeant Ellis, will take the required safety courses. From there, any cadet that wants to participate in the program must receive parental permission beforehand, and they must pass all handwritten and hand-on tests with a 100% score before becoming a part of a marksmanship program. Ultimately, the marksmanship program is going to contain a lot of aspects of safety and leadership, and ultimately we're looking to strengthen our partnership, our relationship with the school district, between the school district and the unit. We're going to have to set up an air rifle range, which I will get to shortly. We'll have to purchase both long-term equipment and short-term equipment that will be refunded through the process. Ultimately, we're going to create a marksmanship curriculum and resources for the cadets, and ultimately work our way all the way from the instruction to the usage and activation of the program, all the way to competing hopefully on a national level. First off, the instructor leadership. The only prerequisite is interest and commitment from our instructors. Given that I'm here speaking with you today, I think we have reached that point. So from here, beyond the approval, the instructors will take both the civilian marksmanship program course and the junior marksmanship instructor course. Those are online courses that the instructors are already committed and ready to take as soon as we receive approval for this program. From there, they'll learn hands-on as we learn as cadets through this program, and ultimately they'll be able to learn from other junior ROTC instructors at the competitions that we attend. Again, safety is going to be the absolute #1 priority, so we are planning to have catch buckets for the pellets at the bottom of the targets, and this is so that there's no lead contamination, and the lead in the pellets are controlled, is a controlled substance. When shooting, we will have a minimum of 1 instructor per 2 cadets on the firing range at all times, and all rifles, the trigger will have a CBI, which is basically a double security lock on the rifle itself. The rifles will then be locked to our stands inside our secured storage room, which is also locked, which is inside the Major Newton's room, which when nobody is present in the room is also locked. So multiple levels of security on these rifles when not in use, making them pretty much impossible to get to unless we want them out. Ultimately, when the range is in use, a red flag will be displayed at all times indicating that the range is in use. And since this program, the Air Force Junior RTC program was created in 2006, there have been 0 safety incidents reported to the National 3-Position Air Rifle Council, which is the organization that oversees it as a whole. Again, we are looking to expand our partnership with the school. We're hoping once the district approves it, the principal will sign the memorandum of understanding. It's going to cover the range location, the use, the access, our maintenance, what rifles we will use, any safety rules that are implemented, training that we have for cadets, and rifle security. So I believe that is one of the documents that was distributed to you folks at the beginning of this meeting. And then our step 3, anytime the range is in use, anytime we are doing anything marksmanship related, we'll absolutely make sure, first priority, that all necessary school officials are aware of that being in play. All right, so for the logistics, we're hoping to have this marksmanship located behind the school where the existing archery range currently is located. We're hoping to start it in the spring of 2019, permitting good weather. And ultimately, we will run it on Tuesdays and Thursdays after school. For equipment, we'll be to start off purchasing 4 air rifles at a $600 price point or less, $800 in equipment, costing the junior RTC unit about $3,000 to $4,000 in initial investment. All of everything that we purchase will be covered by our junior RTC unit funds, therefore costing the school district no money. Some requirements for the air rifles. The targets have to be located about 10 meters in distance from the target, and overall clearance of about 45 to 50 feet long, and 3 to 4 feet of width per firing point. If their range is outdoors, we need to be at least 300 feet from a building and 50 feet from a road. And if indoors, there have to be set safety barriers and restricted access points that are being guarded at all times. So here we have what the layout of the range would be. So the blue dot would be the range officials, which would be Major Newton and Master Sergeant Ellis, who are there overseeing the shooters. So each of those green rectangles would be where a shooter lies, with some give room on either end. So you have 4 shooters at a time with the 2 range officials. Behind them will be 2 observers, which would be cadets. And those observers, their goal is to watch everything in front of them and make sure that nothing is going wrong, everything is being implemented correctly. And on the outside, we have safety spotters, which their goal will be to watch the surrounding area, and if there's any imposing threat, anything that would be a safety concern, they will immediately notify the range official, and from there we will follow the certain safety procedures needed. We're also going to implement a checklist that the range officials will run through with the cadets as they are going through the firing motion to ensure that all safety procedures are followed and to ensure that we are doing everything that we are supposed to do on our end. So here we have a render of where we would like our marksmanship program to be implemented. So that is the teacher parking lot at the Nashua here at this school. So you can see in the field back there, you have about 300 feet of clearance before a 25-foot berm, and off to the right, a 40-foot berm. So the pellets, on average, travel about 150 feet in normal conditions. So they shouldn't, in normal conditions, reach those berms at all, if in the case of a miss. And if in weather conditions, they can travel up to 600 feet, but those berms being in place will absolutely restrict them from going anywhere beyond that. It's located 50 feet from the street and 300 feet from the school, so ultimately meets the required distances. Here we have what the air rifles would be. So they have to be approved by the National 3-Position Air Rifle Council. They must shoot under 600 feet per second, be of 1.77 caliber, and cost less than $600 each. So that list that we have below are the 3 potential rifles, air rifles that we could be purchasing from entry level to a little bit more of an advanced rifle. So most likely we will start with the beginning level rifle, the Daisy M853, as well as purchasing slings for each rifle, leather gloves for the cadets to wear while operating, shooting mats, kneeling rolls, targets, stands, and sanitation supplies, as well as safety supplies that I will be getting to. Some advanced equipment, if in our budget at the time or down the road in the future, we'll also be purchasing additional shooting scope stands, and shooting stands for the cadets to utilize. For our expendable supplies, those are the targets that we will be using up in the top right corner. So it has to be the BMC target, which is the basic entry target, or a 10-bolt target, which is for some more advanced instruction. And the pellets are flat-nosed. They are of 1.77 caliber, and they have to be one of those following manufacturers. For personal and safety equipment, all cadets, when operating a air rifle, will have to have a long or short sleeve on. They'll have eye protection, not only when operating the air rifle, but anybody on, at, or near the range at all times will have the proper eye protection. And hearing protection, although it's not required for these types of air rifles, it will help the shooters with their concentration and focus. So ultimately, our goal is for this marksmanship to be a successful program, and to prove that we can get it to that point. We have an example of Bay High School in Bay, St. Louis, Mississippi for you. So they have their range set up in the cafeteria. So there you have a picture of their cadets using their air rifles in the cafeteria. They've also had great academic success. In both 2017 and 2018, all members on their marksmanship team received and maintained a GPA above 3.0. Ultimately, our goal is to increase recruitment and retention in our Air Force Junior ROTC program. This program in Mississippi, in 2007, they had 165 cadets. In 2008, they implemented their marksmanship program, and in 2009, they grew to 250 cadets. Since then, they have maintained a steady 270 to 280 cadets per year. And ultimately, in 2 years, they had a 52% increase in their recruitment. On average, about 30%, units increase about 30% in recruitment and retention after the implementation of a marksmanship program. They've also been successful competitively, which we hope to rise to ourselves. In 2007, they competed in the Air Force Nationals, and they had a cadet qualify for the Armed Service Champions. And in 2012, they won the Mississippi and Louisiana Rifle League, and a member gained a college scholarship through their marksmanship program. In a quote from the school, they stated, "Our JROTC cadets have gained level of respect that our school's state champion football team has." Ultimately, we are hoping to build that same level of camaraderie, that same level of success, and that feeling of tradition to not only the junior ROTC unit, but to the school and to the district itself. Ultimately, we want to work our way up to compete in both local and national level competitions, and eventually cadets will even have the opportunity to compete in the Junior Olympics. We will compete against other units and other services, and ultimately the competition aspect will be geared to build confidence, teach sportsmanship, increase our cadets' sense of belonging to their school and community. I think it would be really cool if we had a cadet that was in the newspaper for scoring or for placing at a competition. Not only does that build that cadet's self-confidence, but that also helps recruit to the program, and that also brings positive publicity to the school district and to our unit. Marksmanship ultimately will be a program both created and operated on an academic platform. It is going to be a hands-on, out-of-classroom learning experience for the cadets, and it'll ultimately teach a wide variety of things, from respect and safety standards for operating competition air rifles to sportsmanship, competition, focus, self-discipline, and attention to detail. Each cadet in the marksmanship program will be tasked with maintaining a shooting diary, which will include all of the safety protocols, their checklists from their shooting experiences, and really everything from the safety to the competition aspect as they go through the process. Ultimately, our goals for marksmanship, we're looking to increase school participation and retention in Air Force Junior ROTC. We want to help build self-confidence in our cadets and increase their level of sportsmanship. And we want to eventually compete in those local and national level competitions. And again, we really want to bring that sense of community and belonging to both our unit and the Nashua School District, and ultimately open up more avenues for scholarships to our cadets. Another goal ultimately would be to create camaraderie. Personally for me, my father and I, we shot. He taught me how to shoot just for sport as I was a kid. And growing up, that was really the experience that helped my father and I bond. And I want our cadets, I want the instructors to have that same opportunity to experience that bonding, to go through something unique, something that's out of the ordinary, and something that's highly beneficial to both the academic, the sport piece, and really just a little bit of everything. And I think implementing that kind of program to the junior ROTC is really going to help us expand that camaraderie and help create better futures for our cadets. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cadet Corporal Landry. Once again, you've given us an extremely professional presentation. It was an excellent job. I will open up for questions or comments. Go ahead, Mr. Kaufman.
Cadet Corporal Landry, great presentation. The thing I want to say to all the cadets is you guys look great. You wear that uniform proudly, and I respect the commitment you've made. Having said that, I'm absolutely in support of your initiative. I appreciate you bringing it forward to the board, the support of Principal Burns. As someone who's been a range officer at a Boy Scout camp, I can attest to the development of patience. And I will tell you, it's about the breathing. You may not believe me now, but it has a lot to do with breathing. And absolutely, I won't take a lot of time except to say great job on your presentation. Thank you for your commitment. Anything I can do to enable the program, feel free to ask.
Ms. Oden?
Yeah, thank you. It was, this is the second time I've seen you present. I believe you presented at the NEASC conference, and all of you do look great. It's really nice to see you, and I know one day a week you have to go to school in your uniform. It's great. I do have a question about the range location. There was a berm to the right, a berm behind, but to the left of the range location, it looked like a soccer field. I know that the band practices back of the school. Right there, that one. Mm-hmm. Is that, do you know if that's a soccer practice field?
So at one time, that was used as a sports field. To my knowledge, I believe it's no longer used as a field for sporting events. I know the band does use it at times, but that is something that we would work our schedule around to make sure that we're not impeding with their schedule or operating at the same time as the band.
Okay, but you said Tuesdays and Thursdays would be the date. Is that negotiable?
Yeah, that is the tentative
Okay.
course dates, but we will be, I believe, flexible with the dates to make sure that it's not impeding with any current things that are scheduled.
Also, maybe a mile from here on Broad Street, there is a shooting range. Have you looked into using a shooting range rather than to use the open field on the school property?
Yeah, it's certainly an option for us. That is the New Hampshire Horse Pond Fishing Game Club. We do have a connection there. I personally know the president of the club, and they usually like to support groups like this. So that is certainly an avenue that we could potentially look into. Even if we were still to set up a range here where the archery range currently is, we'd maybe be able to use that in the winter months or something like that. But our ideal goal is to have something set up on site to minimize the need to transport the air rifles, the minimum to not have to transport cadets to and from. Just because sometimes it can be a hassle, even if it's a short distance, finding rides for cadets to and from after and things as that such.
Would all of these cadets go to the range at the same time?
So we'll, obviously each cadet involved in the program will have to pass all of the academic pieces to it, and it'll be a selective process. But all of these cadets are basically just here in support of the program. Some of us will be graduating this year, not necessarily in the program. But I mean, really, we'll open up the marksmanship program to anybody that is interested, so long as they receive that parental consent, so long as they pass their tests. So really, it depends on the numbers that we receive. But whether we get 5 cadets that want to do it or 50 cadets that want to do it, we will be flexible in working that schedule and on our end figuring out who is involved in the program at certain times.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, ma'am, a couple of things. Sorry.
Thank you, Major Newton. We can't hear you unless you're on a microphone. It doesn't pick up for the recording.
Yeah, I need to buy you a portable one. Just a couple to add on what Adam was saying. So number one is I'm trying to avoid transporting students, because as soon as I do that, then we're going to cut down on the number of students that are going to participate. Transportation is extremely expensive, and if I have to rely on parents to transport cadets, then again, we're talking about a drop in the number of cadets that are going to be able to participate. So I'm trying to keep it local, so they can just walk out of the back building and participate. So we're going to have 4 lanes of shooters, and we'll rotate shooters through those 4 lanes. So whether we have 8, 12, or 16, whatever the case may be, I would imagine that those 4 shooters will shoot 20, 25 rounds apiece, and then leave the lane, and the next shooter will step in. So we'll be able to rotate through several cadets during any given point in time pretty quickly. I think that answers your question.
It does, thank you. I have one more question. I believe that back berm abuts the river, and
Yes, ma'am.
anybody can be walking through there.
Yes, ma'am.
Will there be any signs back there warning people? And I'm thinking about children, 8, 9, 10 years old, who often are wandering around there. The neighborhood there's a lot of children in the neighborhood, so I'm concerned about that.
So that berm is immediately inside of the tree line. So we can see anybody, the observers, the 2 observers that we have on the outside of the range are the observers that will be looking for anybody that happens to come down the trail to the right, or anybody that happens to come down the trail to the left. You'd actually have to climb up on top of that berm to get over it and be anywhere near the vicinity. The pellets actually traveling to the berm is almost never going to happen. They just, unless you have a 30-mile-an-hour wind at your back, seldom will they even go to the berm, that 300 feet. The targets only sit off the ground a few feet, 5 feet, I believe, which means, again, that they're not going to travel beyond the berm, or seldom are they even going to hit the berm. So to have somebody in the back, that would be a lot. I mean, we certainly can post signs back there. That's not an issue.
Can I have one more? I'm confused. The pellets, if they don't reach the berm, then they're just dropping on the ground.
Yes, ma'am.
There was
We
somebody
will have a
saying
catch.
that-
We will have a catch bucket.
Yes,
Now, we're assuming that cadets will hit the target every time. We're hoping that's the case, and they catch the pellet. Okay, now there may be 1 or 2 that miss, and yes, they will go beyond the target and not get into the catch bucket. But,
okay. Thank you.
yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, Ms. Van Twyver had her hand up.
Well, that was my question too, what was behind there, if there was some fence or something that, so people couldn't get back there. But then you said that these pellets will fall out of the bucket. Are they going to just stay there, or are you guys going to pick them up somehow?
It'd be
or-
impossible to find that little pellet in the grass.
Okay. But they're lead, aren't they?
They are lead.
Is there any possibility they eventually could get into the water supply?
No, no,
Thank
ma'am.
you. Hey, I don't know.
No.
I'm just asking.
The amount of concentration that you would need from lead to actually affect any kind of water supply is 100 years maybe worth of what we're going to shoot on that range. So,
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Timmons?
Thank you, Madam Chair. You guys do look great in your uniform. I used to look like that when I was in the military. I do have some questions regarding your safety gear. I noticed that you had your eye goggles and you had your earplugs, but you did not see, I didn't see any left-handed devices.
Any what kind of devices?
Left-handed devices. I'm a left-handed person. I have to have a left-handed devices. And all the equipment, you didn't show any of that. So whenever I was firing, I had to have that. Or my arm, I would burn my arm. So I was wondering, would that be included as well?
Of course.
Okay. Of course. All right.
We will, yes.
I'm sorry, Ms. Porter and then Mr. Guarino.
Okay, thank you for a very good presentation. It's nice to always have people at our meetings, so thank you for coming. I'm looking at the cost would be paid for, you said, for the AFJR ROTC. Is there any way to have transportation and costs included in that so that they would pay to transport our students?
Transportation from
Here
my
to a
3+
firing
years of
range.
experience is cost prohibitive. One bus to pretty much any event that I've gone to is about $400,
Wow.
Okay,
flat out. So it's just, we don't have the budget for it. So I just can't do that.
okay,
I wish I could.
I do too.
Like, you can buy me a van and I'll drive.
And that road access there, is that going to be closed off during those practices? Because that, I'm just wondering, are people going to be able to drive by there while they're?
Yes, ma'am.
They will?
Yes.
So you wouldn't block that off?
No, everything will be downrange. Any of the air rifles that would be loaded would be facing downrange, and they wouldn't face any other direction.
Okay. And I saw in some of the pictures that you, that school you showed had indoor practice. Is that something that you would be considering here?
Definitely. At some point, I'd love to move inside. We'd not have to worry about the weather and all the rest of that. Both gyms right now are really, really booked heavily for most of the school year, so that's probably not possible. Certainly could look at the cafeteria, if we can move things around in there. The amount of space that's required for inside is what? I don't remember the exact, 30 by 50, I think it was. 30 by 50, so that's something that we could look at in a cafeteria. But again, now you're talking about different types of safety features. So it's a whole nother expense that we'd have to take a look at. The easiest thing right now is to just get this started outside and see how it goes, and then we can take it from there.
Okay, and my last question is regarding liability. I believe that you have safety first. I'm not questioning that, but things happen.
Sure.
And if there were some misfiring or some accident of some type, what is the district liability in that case?
I'm probably not the person to answer that question.
I think, okay, well, I just think that's something to consider. Maybe we would speak with council just to, do you know that, Ms. O'Gara?
We would bring it to risk management at the city. They cover us for liability.
So we would have to check that prior to approving?
We would.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Guarino?
Thank you, Madam President. I just have a couple of quick questions about the rifles that you use. Did you say the range was 600 feet? I thought in the presentation it said 600.
Yeah, 300 feet.
300 feet.
On most of those rifles, yes.
That's the farthest it's going to go. And we.
That's with a wind at your back.
Okay. And they're called rifles, so I'm assuming that the barrel is rifled or not?
I haven't looked at that close. I think they are. Yes, they are.
They are rifled. Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
All right, I have a couple of questions. Oh, Ms. Oden?
I'm sorry, I just had one more, thinking about the neighbors. How noisy are these rifles?
They're not at all. Actually, Ear protection isn't even required for these. I mean, they can, certainly we'll provide that, and they can wear ear protection, but it's more of a pop than anything.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. All right, so I have a couple questions. So we're talking about airsoft pellet guns, basically, but they're a particular kind?
Airsoft is a little plastic BB, so
And this
these are
is-
just air rifles, and they use just a little lead pellet.
This teeny thing you handed out?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, ma'am.
Great. So my question is...
There's no gunpowder involved.
Okay, thank you.
It's
So
all
I guess
air.
my question is a legal question, and I don't know if you can answer it. But state law, RSA 193D and 193.13, both are regarding weapons on school grounds and firearms on school grounds, and students are strictly prohibited from having firearms on school campus under state law. And so I don't know if this type of gun falls under that or not. And so I guess for me, before we were to take any action at the board level, I would want to know that answer. Does anybody know that answer? Ms. Hohensee might.
Thank you. I believe that with the permission of the principal, that would be fine.
Okay, so that's something that I would certainly want to look into, because I don't want to have us inadvertently violating a state law that requires students to be suspended should they bring a gun of some sort onto campus. It's like an automatic thing. So someone's making a face. Do you have an answer?
Yeah. Yeah, that is one point. They're not the students. They wouldn't be bringing anything.
Yeah.
They'd be housed at the school.
Right, but then they
themselves.
would be in
And school
possession of
property.
them. So for me, I think we'd need an answer to that question before I would know how I felt about it. So the other question that I did have was regarding partnerships with the community members. I know you just said it's like $400 to bus, which is really expensive to do twice a week. And I'm wondering if the National Guard has some options, or if there are other partnerships we could seek out to help with that, depending on what the answer to the RSA question is. So, did I see your hand, Mr. Kaufman?
Yes, thank you. I was going to say, if you go into one of our shops, even in the middle school, and someone's using a saw or a drill or a pneumatic, in the auto shop, every one of those things is a dangerous thing. But the fact is, we have professionals who oversee the use of that. You have 2 range officers overseeing. Each range officer will oversee the operation of the 2 cadets in front of them.
Correct.
So you have the 2 range officers, 4 cadets, and in addition, they have the extra observers on the sides.
Correct.
So I think this is a professionally managed program, and we'd be in good hands in letting our folks do this.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Hohensee?
Thank you. I'd like to move that we approve this program and let it go forward. To move to approve the JROTC Marksmanship LDR program.
I'll second that.
Okay, Ms. Oden?
Were you planning to contact risk management or to check into the statute that you mentioned?
I can certainly do that. I can contact Dan's waving at me. Corporation Counsel?
Yeah, I could check with risk management, that piece of it. If you want to check with the state, that's fine.
Reasonable?
Yeah. I would like to wait. I would like to table this, I think, until we get clarification so we don't get ahead of ourselves.
Mr. Van Twyver?
I agree with Ms. Oden. I think I'd like to wait to find out whether state laws are going to change.
Thank you. Mr. Kaufman?
I withdraw my second pending the inquiry into the matters, but I would ask that the chair put this on the next available calendar once those issues have been determined.
I think I think that's reasonable. So Mr. Donovan will reach out to the insurance part of it. I will reach out to the state. And then as soon as we have some answers, we will revisit the topic. I know y'all were hoping for an answer tonight, and I'm sorry to have you all come and dress up and be here late on a school night with no answer. But I think it's important for everybody that we do things properly and we make sure that we're following all of the laws of the state. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Would you like me to remove my motion?
Yes.
Okay,
sorry.
I'd like to, and I also think that there's nothing to worry about. These types of programs have gone on before in other schools, so I think it's just a matter of a little bit of research that the board needs to do to stay positive. I think we'll get it approved.
Major Newton, do you know if there are any other schools in New Hampshire who have this program?
There are no other schools in New Hampshire that have this program. There are 2 other schools, Salem and Elverin, that are looking at this program as well.
Okay.
And we're investigating programs in Massachusetts. I believe there's 1 or 2 in Massachusetts that have this program.
Okay. And you don't by any chance know the status of Salem and Elvern?
I think they're waiting for us.
I'm wondering if they have the exact same questions that we have. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Yes,
so
ma'am.
much,
Thank you.
Major Newton, for coming down, and all of the cadets. I really appreciate your time this evening. Okay. Thank you. Ms. Oden.
Do we need a motion to table this until,
We withdrew the motion.
well, okay,
Yep.
thank you.
So I think at this point we have an understanding of what our next steps are,
Thank you.
which I will write down so I don't forget. So hold on 1 second. Okay. All right, and I see that Mike from EEI is here this evening. I apologize, I've forgotten your last name. I'm sorry? Davey. Did you have a presentation for us this evening as well, or is that part of the finance discussion?
But there's motions related to his presentation for the finance, so if you want to do it right before the finance, we could do.
Are you able to wait a few minutes? Thank you so much. Okay. All right, then I'll just leave the table as it is. All right, moving on to the consent agenda. Does anyone have any items that they would like to remove from the consent agenda? Okay, seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second?
We have no one on the phone, so we can do this by voice vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All of those opposed? Okay, motion carries. We have no items removed from the consent agenda. Are there any communications outside the consent agenda this evening? Okay, seeing none. We are now on to the public question and comment period, limited to items on this agenda. Did anyone wish to speak regarding items on tonight's agenda? Jimmy, are there any people signed up on that list? Oh, he's not looking at me. Okay. Last call. Seeing none. The superintendent's comments.
Good evening, everyone. I have a little bit of a lengthy list here, so I'm just going to run through it. Stacy Batchelder and Jennifer Scarpati have been selected for the 2019 Fellow of the Yale Childhood Trauma Learning. These 2 principals were nominated and selected for the Alliance to address the needs of children and youth who have experienced at risk and experiencing significant trauma. This is an exciting opportunity that will help our schools better understand how to alleviate the impact of trauma. So congratulations to 2 of our elementary principals. This month is Read Across America, so I'm sure many of you have received invitations from schools to read to our kids. So congratulations to those who've read. I also know that I that students have also participated in this event as well. I had some conversations with the public library as well, and they actually had a book sale going on this past weekend, along with DVD sales. So if you can't find a book or you're looking for a book, you can always go down to the public library, and they'd be more than happy to supply you with that. Strategic planning, I want to again encourage individuals to go to our website and complete our survey. Our survey is up and ready to go, and all walks of life should be completing that survey. I'm going to kind of run through this list because it's fairly extensive, but I just wanted to acknowledge that our winter sports are over. The North and the North boys and girls basketball team made it to the playoffs. The girls lost in the first round, and the boys lost in the second round. The Spirit team finished fourth in the preliminary tournament to make it to the championship round, which is tomorrow. The boys track team at the North, overall second place. Girls track team did very well as well. So I just wanted to acknowledge those athletes. The South boys, girls, and unified basketball, as well as the ice hockey teams, made the playoffs. All did not pass the first round, but that's okay. Congratulations to those individuals that competed in that. Gymnastics team also had a good season. I just wanted to acknowledge that they did a really good job. Girls indoor track also finished fourth in the division. I also wanted to just say thank you to all those coaches, parents, anybody that was connected to our winter sports. We got very fortunate that we didn't have a lot of snow days, but still, I know that there were some long weekends going to Dartmouth College. If you are with the track team, you'll know what I mean. And I know that these aren't just events that take 1 hour, an hour, a half hour. They're all-day events that people are away from their families. So I just want to acknowledge the coaches and the parents who were connected to that. With that said, the spring is here. I want to encourage all of students, if you're not playing a sport, that's okay, but to get involved in something. It's very important that you get involved in your schools and certainly make sure that you make a difference. So many of these updates that I give are actually, they feel a little old because I like to tweet out a lot more than I do reporting to the superintendent's report. But at any rate, I usually catch everything, and I know that district-wide, there are some events that if you can't follow here at the school board meetings, please feel free to go to the website, the Twitter, and that certainly we get all of that great information out to our general public. That's all I have for now.
Thank you, Dr. Mosley. Any response to the superintendent's comments? Ms. Hohensee?
Thank you. I was wondering if the board members could get a copy of the strategic goals survey. We have the link, but just all the questions listed out in a sheet format. I had asked for that a couple weeks ago. I was hoping that we could get a copy.
You can. It's nearly impossible to get a copy of. My recommendation would be just go to the website and just print it. Because depending on who you are, it's not just one survey. There's several different avenues in which you can complete the survey. For example, if you're a parent, your survey is very different than the teacher. If you're a teacher, your survey is very different than the community member. If you're a student, your survey is very different than the parent. If you're a retired teacher, your survey is very different than all of the above. So to print out one blank statement or copy would be pretty extensive. You're looking for a printout of every single demographic I just mentioned?
I didn't know that they were different surveys, and I didn't know that you could print them out. I just saw that you can take a survey, and I didn't want to do that. I wanted to see a list. So if you're saying there's too many, that's fine.
No, well, I would just have you, my recommendation would be, I would encourage you to take a look at the survey, and then if you have any other questions, I'd be more than happy to answer that.
Thank you, I did. You had to answer it to get to the next page. You couldn't just scroll without answering it. You had to
Right.
So that made it difficult.
Ms. Van Twyver?
You don't have a total list of all the questions in one spot?
So the way that it, no.
I understand
well, no.
what you said about
I-
there being different,
There's different silos of questions depending on who you are. So whatever you identify, for instance, community member, then you're directed to those silos of questions and then you answer them. If you're a student, you're, routed to the student part of the survey.
I understand that, but were these developed by our people or by the UNH?
UNH and our people.
I think
too.
that if you ask UNH, they can give you a list of all the questions in, just straight through. But that's,
So you, just so I'm clear, you want questions from the community members?
all members in one list. They can give that to you, I'm sure.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Mr. Kaufman.
Thanks. I have two questions. First, I'm curious if any effort's been made, you've been able to reschedule that meeting with the aldermen about the focus groups. It was originally scheduled for December, it was canceled when the aldermen, all of them, had a conflict.
It's about response to the,
It is. This goes under strategic plan. Thank you, Mr. Corino.
So I just wanted to, because that's been out there for several months now, so I'm just curious if that is going to be rescheduled, or, because if you say it's not, I'll stop asking, so.
We're working on coordinating that.
Okay, and I have other question. There was an issue with policies not being accessible because of the changes of the reorganization of the website, and I'm curious if that's been fixed. It's been several weeks since that happened.
I don't know. I can ask Stacy or Tara. And get back to
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Just so we're clear, that was not part of my
Yes.
superintendent comment. It just wasn't.
That's
So,
okay. This
I
is the
just-
only
I
chance
just-
I have to ask a question of you, and I took advantage of it. Thank you.
So if we could just keep our comments
But-
at this time.
Excuse me, if I may, that's not a board policy. That was a decree by the past board president. It was never voted on. It's not in a policy. This is the only chance we have to communicate publicly with the superintendent.
That's,
So I would say we have every right to ask him a question that's relevant to the operation of the district. Thank you.
point of order, the agenda says board response to superintendent's comments. That's what it says on the agenda.
okay. I don't particularly want to spend our meeting time discussing how people interpret those words on the agenda. Does anyone else have a response to the superintendent? No? Okay, I have a couple small things. First, the Nashua Friends of the Library book sale is actually this Saturday and Sunday. It hasn't happened yet. I know because I donated like 10 boxes of books, so please go buy those books. They need a new home, and it makes me sad to have to give them away. And then I just wanted to say congratulations to all the student athletes. It is very difficult to maintain your coursework and do a sport, especially in the upper levels. And I just want to give a shout out to all of those students and their families who are supporting them to do that. So.
Ms. Raymond, I was just encouraging people to get there early and for the sale. and to be very honest with you, this isn't my fault. The fact that Mother Nature made me turn the clocks back forward, this is my bedtime. So I apologize for that oversight.
That's fine. Again, like I said, I just want the books I had to part with to find new homes. Okay, so moving along, student members of the board comments. Mr. Eid.
So just a few things. First, we have a quick update on the student representative elections. At South and at North, the Senate has written up some rules, and at least at South, and I believe at North too, one of the biggest things that we placed a priority on was the state law, and I think you guys would be glad to hear that. And then the third was that at this point, we're just working on making it consistent between the schools, roughly. It doesn't have to be exactly the same. Besides that, the SAT is also this month on March 27th at South, and the junior prom is, I believe, next month.
Thank you, Mr. Eid. Ms. Scales?
The military ball will be March 30th, this month, and J-prom for Nashua High School North will be May 18th, and I have a couple, not necessarily complaints, but concerns, yeah, concerns. lack of chairs in classrooms here at Nashua North, and fruit requirements at lunch.
The what requirements at lunch?
Fruit requirements at lunch.
What does that mean?
So at every lunch, a student.
Mrs. Shante, I don't think they can, I'm sorry, Ms. Scales, I don't think he can hear you. Is your microphone on?
Yes, it's on.
Okay. Try and put it like super close to your mouth.
So at the breakfasts and lunches at Nashua High School North and Nashua High School South, you're required to take either a juice, a milk, or a fruit. And so my concern is that a lot of kids don't always want to take the fruit, so fruit is just getting wasted, and a lot of kids don't always want to take a milk or a juice, and so more food is accumulating and being wasted in our school, and I think that's a really big concern.
Okay. Did anyone have any suggestions that they had passed on to you?
No, other than that it not be required for you to take a fruit. Well, it's required, but to make it so it's not required.
Okay, I think that's a federal thing, so we might be stuck with it. Okay, and Mr. Donovan?
Yes, I believe I had a discussion with the Director of Food Services, Ms. Daigle, and I think they're working on something related to the fruit piece of it, so more to come.
Okay,
Give us a little time.
Ms. Oden?
I was going to say, I know at the elementary school, kids were not allowed to take something and give it to somebody else. But I was just wondering, maybe at the high school, is there some place that, if somebody took like an apple or something, a big bowl that they could leave it, so if somebody did want an apple who wasn't getting hot lunch or brought their lunch and didn't have it, is that allowed at the high school level?
We don't have that at We don't have that at Nashua High School North and Nashua High School South, but it's a really good idea.
Yeah, I believe that's one of the options we're looking at.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Donovan. And then I see that Mr. Burns is not with us. So Ms. Fitzpatrick, I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you know anything about the chair situation?
Yeah, Mr. Donovan and I, go ahead.
Mr. Donovan knows about it. I'm
Yes.
sorry, Mr. Donovan.
Well, it's
I
been
didn't
an
know that
ongoing
you would be in on
conversation.
that.
We've had chair issue for a while at both high schools. As you know, the budget the last few years has been very tight. We did give some money to both principals earlier this year. And I think South is in better shape than North right now, but we have not forgotten you. We will continue to buy more chairs. It's the original set of chairs when the high schools were purchased, and I guess a number of them are breaking over time. So we'll try to get some more funds for chairs later this year.
Okay,
I'll speak to Principal Burns.
thank you. Ms. Scales?
Another concern about the milk and juices and fruits in our school is that we are constantly running out of food at our lunches. So I think that being required to take a fruit, a juice, or a milk is definitely hindering, or it's not allowing everybody to get the amount of food that they'd like to, or letting them is not allowing them to have the choice to get a juice or milk or fruit because we're running out.
Okay. So by the end of lunch, there are students who can't get a juice or a milk or a fruit because there's none left?
Yes, by fourth lunch, yes.
Okay, that is important for the Director of Food Services to be aware of as well. Okay, thank you. That was very helpful, Ms. Scales and Mr. Eid. So the Committee on the Budget, Mr. Gorino.
Thank you, Madam President. Our next meeting is going to be Thursday, where we're going to have public comments. So if anyone is watching and would like to make a public comment, now is your next Thursday will be the day to do it. And that's pretty much all I have.
Okay.
I believe it's Wednesday.
No, it's
No,
Thursday this week.
Usually
Thursday.
we've been on Wednesdays, but it's been scheduled for Thursday.
Okay.
Ms. Van Twyver?
Will it be in this room or in the auditorium?
It should be right here, yes.
Okay,
I believe
thank
so.
you.
Perhaps we can talk.
Excuse me, just clarification. It's posted in our packet Thursday, March 14th, in this room at 6:30 PM.
Yep. If we overrun, we can talk about options. Okay. Okay. Committee on Finance and Operations.
We have a meeting scheduled for tomorrow night, 6:30, right here. And we have two items on the agenda that were in the committee, approved by the committee at the February 6th meeting, I believe. And we'll present that tonight. And I think Mr. Donovan's going to explain a little bit of why we waited a little bit for this presentation. Thank you.
Okay, we had, the committee approved two recommendations which will come up, but we thought it important that our energy consultant, energy efficient investments, who've been working with on this, give a quick, and it's going to be quick, presentation to the whole board so that you understand the whole, what this process is all about before you make a vote. Typically, we just keep it to the committee, but since this is something that involves the city, potential bonding, other things, I think it's important that everyone sort of hear the discussion. So I'll turn it over to Mike Davey to give you a quick rundown.
Thank you, Mr. Davey. Mr. Eid and Ms. Scales, would you mind hitting the lights?
Again, I'm Mike Davey with Energy Efficient Investments, and we are a energy efficiency advisory and performance contracting company located in Merrimack, New Hampshire. We do work all over northern New England, so this is a nice close to be working about 3 miles from our office in Nashua North. What our goal is in doing an energy study at the two high schools is to develop a project that is budget neutral, meaning that the energy savings would pay for necessary capital improvements over time. An example of this is the campus is primarily fluorescent light. By going to LED light and more energy efficient products and controls of your heating and ventilating systems, there's an opportunity to save more than $220,000 at both schools alone. To give you an order of magnitude, the energy savings alone from these two buildings would be more than equal to the energy consumption of the entire middle school facility. So there's a substantial amount of energy savings at these two complexes, and because they are by far and away, Nashua North and South, the largest energy users for any school buildings, we started at these locations where there's the most potential opportunity for savings. And so the goal is to develop a project that is tax neutral. They're typically financed with a bond or a lease, and the energy savings pay for the annual bond or lease payment. So in general, your energy budget is reduced typically and is replaced with a bond or lease payment equal to the annual energy savings. Due to the size of the projects, we're recommending doing just one high school per year and completing the work over the summer. And that would correlate to which schools have summer school. The energy savings are substantial, more than $220,000 at each school. And we are also looking at solar opportunities at the schools where you have the newest roofs. The roofs on these two facilities are more than 18 years old, so it doesn't make sense to put solar here at this time. So we're looking at some of the other schools that have newer roofs for potential solar opportunities. And we're seeking board approval to proceed with the final energy audit, which will confirm all of our assumptions and be a more detailed approval, and also to get approval to move forward for approval of discussions on financing options for those projects. A lot of the savings comes from LED lighting. For example, the fixtures that are in this room, typically are burning about 58 watts. Going to LED, those can go down to 20 watts. So just in this room, you're going from 50 to 20, and there are several thousand fixtures throughout this building alone. This is a recent example of a Vermont high school where after we implemented the LED and transformer improvements, their usage is down 46%. So the orange lines are the 2018 and the gray lines are 2017. So 46% reduction in monthly energy consumption since implementing these changes. At Nashua North High School, there are 32 transformers. Those are energy consuming devices that take 480 volt power and bring it down to 120 volt power so we can plug in our laptops and computers. And each one of those devices is, a lot of times if you go into those rooms, they're very warm because there's a lot of electricity that's lost in the form of heat. We can replace those transformers that are about 92% efficient with 99.5% efficient lossless transformers, and that change will be more than 400,000 kilowatt hours in savings for each of the school, which is equivalent to the entire electrical consumption at Birch Hill. So just by upgrading the transformers, we can essentially offset all the usage of a similar school. One other exciting thing, it's exciting to me, I don't know if it is to you guys, but on the gym units, we can put in demand control ventilation. So engineers need to decide to design that building so that if you're hosting a playoff basketball game, you can ventilate for all the people in the space. That means that you're often bringing in much more air than is ever needed for the people in the space. So we're proposing demand control ventilation to monitor the amount of people in the space and then just bring in the necessary air to meet the people. That's a new technology that wasn't available when this school was designed. So I'm consolidating about an hour presentation into 5 to 10 minutes. So excuse the brevity. But the next plan is to take our preliminary findings and develop an investment grade audit and proceed with contract documents, and then meet with city officials and school finance to figure out the best way to finance these projects. To give you an order of magnitude, I believe the project for Nashua South would be $3,807,000 based on preliminary numbers. This would be further refined and would yield in $231,000 in annual energy savings and be offset with $444,000 in rebates and grants. The simple payback is 14.5 years. Oh, I apologize. This is not broadcasting. Take my word for it, it's here. Let's see. Yeah, sorry. There we go. Sorry about that. So that is the 440. So let me go through those numbers again. So the total project would be 3.8 million. Annual energy savings is 231,000 and 444,000 in rebates and grants, which is a 14-year simple payback. So if that were funded with a 20-year lease or bond, it would be set up so that the annual energy savings would be equal to the annual bond or lease payment, so that there's not a budget impact So that's, I can certainly go into as much detail as you like, but I know you have a full agenda, so I'm going to stop there and for questions or comments.
Thank you, Mr. Davey. Ms. Hohensee.
Thank you. So if it takes 14 and a half years to recover the investment of the installation, what's the life expectancy of the equipment before you'll have to replace it again? I mean, how much is our gain over the 20-year bond?
Good question. So the lighting has an estimated life of 22 and a half years, and the HVAC equipment is 20 to 30 years in useful life. I should point out that this is a mix of needed improvements with projects that have a stronger payback. So, for example, the payback on the lighting alone is something like 7 years, but we know that there are components in these schools that are such as the HVAC controls and the hot water heater that are 20 years old, headed for end of life. So this is doing a combination of taking projects that have a strong payback and mixing them with necessary repairs that the district needs to make anyway.
And that would all be in the analysis of the final audit. What is the cost of this audit?
There is no cost.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Ms. Oden?
Thank you. I know I had a question at Finance, in Ops, about solar. I'm interested in solar hot water. And you were saying the roofs are new enough that it might not be worthwhile to replace them. I don't know what the replacement of the roof was. I know sometimes it's 25 years, sometimes it's 30. But I'm wondering, can you check into solar that's on the ground? We have a farm right up the street that has 2 extremely large solar panels that are on the ground. And I know we happen to have solar on our roof. It's 35 years old. It's very efficient, not as efficient as it is now, but the man who installed and services our solar said it's more efficient having it on the ground than it is on the roof. So could you check into solar panels on the ground?
Yes.
For us? Thank you.
All right, I would entertain a motion if anyone has a motion at this time. Ms. Oden?
I move to approve the board move forward with an investment grade audit for both high schools from EEI.
A second. Oh, go ahead. A second, Ms. Timmons. Okay.
Okay. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, we can take a voice vote. This is so exciting with the voice votes. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? All right, it looks like it's unanimous. Fantastic.
Okay, I have one more motion to make.
Okay.
I recommend to ask EEI to investigate solar at Dr. Crisp Elementary and Fairgrounds Middle School, and I'm going to add to that the cost of installation of on-ground solar panels to both high schools.
Second.
Okay. Mr. Kaufman?
Thank you. You know, I followed solar for a long, long time. When I first came to New Hampshire, my license plate was Suntime, and I still try and keep my hands on understanding the technologies and how it's evolved. But I have to say, I know the district has already made an investment in terms of a future energy purchase contract from a solar farm. I don't know, that's about buying market electricity competitively, and it's probably a year or 2 out before we even can purchase. And I think, for me anyway, I think having the investment in solar is great. I'd rather have someone else worry about it on their property, because, so I'll be voting. As much as I love solar, I just think we should stick to education. and not worry about that kind of equipment on our roofs or out next to a ball field or whatever. So I'll be voting against it. Not that I don't like it, but we've already have an investment to buy from a solar company that specializes in putting energy on the grid. We leverage the benefit of solar without having it here, which I think is a good thing. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kaufman. Ms. Oden and Mr. Davies, and maybe Mr. Donovan, I'm not sure who. So this motion is to have Mr. Davies' company look into the costs of solar. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, to investigate.
Investigate.
Okay, thank you. I feel comfortable now. Any other discussion? Okay. Oh, a voice vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
Opposed?
Okay, so
Ayes got it.
the ayes have it by my count 6-2. Yes?
One abstention.
Oh, I'm sorry, and one abstention. 5-2, one abstention. Now I'm less excited about voice votes. I missed the abstention.
Well, you don't usually ask for that. I mean, it's not some, but I would like to be put down that way.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Mr. Davies. I appreciate you waiting so patiently this evening. Okay. Okay, anything else, Ms. Oden?
No, I'm sorry, just that we have a meeting tomorrow night.
Okay.
Thank you, 6 o'clock right here.
Thank you so much. And Committee on Policy, Mr. Guarino.
Thank you, Madam President. We have a number of items on the agenda. First one is a change to policy ECA-R. The changes are on page 2. I believe this was in our policy committee back and forth a couple of times. We had our security director, our gentleman in charge of security, review this and approve it. So I'm not going to go into great detail on it. But I would move to recommend approval of policy ECA-R, District Security Procedures, as amended.
So moved.
Are you seconding that, Ms. Timmons?
Yes.
Thank you. Any discussion? Ms. Porter?
Okay, I have a couple of questions and a couple of grammatical changes, if I could. So if we start on page 1, the third paragraph up starts with, an employee will be provided one free replacement card every 3 months. Thereafter, the employee will be charged. It says charge. Do you see that? Right before where it says $10,
Excuse me, page 1
page 1,
and the third paragraph?
from the bottom.
From the bottom.
From the bottom. See where the $10 is?
Yes.
They will be charged.
Oh, you need a D before
Yeah,
the
we need a
dollar
D
sign.
instead of charge.
Okay.
Okay, on page 2, 1, 2, 3, the fourth paragraph from the top, the last sentence says the pass will be a disposable sticker and must include the visitor's name. I know that in some schools you have like a sticker that you stick right on you, but in other places you have a badge that's in a plastic protector that gets placed on. So I'm just wondering if we're doing away with those and just going to disposable stickers.
I think that's a question for administration, because every time I visited a school, I always got the sticker. I didn't know the other was available.
Well, right at central office even, they have
Yeah.
the badges. So the question, I'm just curious if we're doing away with those plastic badges.
We haven't, at central office, it's a little smaller because of just our size, but at the high school, we tend to use the stickers
Okay.
because it's just more convenient and they're easier disposable. But, in terms of being green, we should probably look into that. We just haven't perfected the badges yet.
Okay, I just wondered since it was specifically mentioned. If you go down where the vendor contractor identification, the second paragraph in that section, I think it should read when delivering supplies or working inside instead of when delivery.
Yes.
Okay, on page 3, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5th paragraph from the top. It says that we're going to use theater-style roping systems, and I was just wondering how those were being paid for. I think it's a good idea, but where are they coming from? Is that like coming from each school's budget? They have to pay for their own? Is that from the security budget?
My understanding is this has been the policy for quite some
Okay.
time, so hopefully they're
just
already
didn't-
following that. I'm looking down there at the assistant superintendents.
Right here.
No, I haven't. Okay, sorry.
I know because I've been going around to the schools for pops, I know the elementaries have roping.
Okay, all right. That's fine, just checking. On page 4, in the section access control, in the 3rd paragraph down,
Sorry.
I'm having trouble understanding the first sentence of that 3rd paragraph. In consultation with the Director of Plan Operations, the superintendent shall designate the assistant. Is that just, are we designated the assistant or one of somebody?
I can't find it.
So I'm on page 4.
Right above keys.
Oh, got it. I miscounted.
And Ms. Fitzpatrick?
I'm assuming that because this part of the policy was previously written and approved, that there probably isn't an assistant director for safety and security anymore, so we should probably strike assistant.
Okay.
Because Chris Lassard is the director.
So how should it read then?
He's not what?
He's a safety officer.
What is he?
I believe he's an assistant director. I think that's his.
Yes, because Sean is the Director of Plan Operations. And
So the
Gary
word
and-
one should be
You just
struck.
strike the word run, okay. Under keys, the 3rd paragraph down, about returning keys, does that include returning them for the summer? I know when I worked, I had to turn my keys in the summer.
Interesting point.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Well, we did have a discussion about that, and we left it up to each of the principals.
Okay.
We're hoping that they actually collect them, because we've had a lot of problems where teachers decide not to come back in the summer, and it's very difficult to get those keys back. So we're suggesting to the principals, please collect all the keys from the employees the last day of school, and then they'll reissue them in August, September.
Okay, thank you.
That seems prudent.
I just have one more thing. Thank you for your patience. On page 5, under video surveillance,
6. Oh, page 5, yep.
page 5. Okay, video surveillance, the last paragraph of, the last sentence of the first paragraph. Areas chosen for surveillance shall be where surveillance is a necessary and viable deterrent. I believe the word a should be placed.
I don't have A on my copy.
You have it? I don't have it on mine. You have it? No, but I edited it. Okay, all right. No, these are picky little things. It's just as I was reading. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Porter. Mr. Kaufman?
Thank you, Ms. Porter, for proofreading. It's probably impossible to stop a teacher from doing that. I do have a question back to where you were on access control. I think the language correction you've suggested, I absolutely agree with. But I'm curious, do we want to specifically, where we have the Director of Plan Operations, we're referring to superintendent in this sentence, and then again, an Assistant Director of Safety and Security. So if for some reason that changes in the future, we'll have to change this policy. Might it be a little easier to accommodate, just some, the designated person? We know we're going to have a Director of Plant Ops and a Superintendent. The title and the personage of an assistant director of safety could easily change. Maybe if we just made this someone, a designee, just to keep it more generic so that we wouldn't have to change this should that position change. That's all. It's just a thought.
Or designee.
Or designee, yeah.
Fine the way
I think it reads fine.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's fine.
Okay, Ms. O'Gara?
Do we even have to have this in there because there should be a job description that designates the assistant director's responsibilities? And if we didn't have one, we would assign, I imagine we would fill his position because he also goes around to the schools as well.
I don't. Okay. Do we have a motion?
It's a motion on the floor.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Ms. Hohensee. I did not see
Thank you. Under visitors on page 2, I want to know, it says, it's the responsibility of the school to ensure that visitors other than district staff members and approved contractors receive a staff escort to their destination and one back to the main office. Does that include board members?
I believe it does. I visited a school and I had a person escort me.
Well, I think sometimes getting there and getting back, it might be fine, but there are some tasks that board members have that I don't think it's necessary to be chaperoned throughout the building. So I'm just wondering if, if that's too restrictive.
I guess it just says to their destination. It doesn't say and watch them while they're having their meeting, so I would think that would be fine.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened when I visited a school.
Yeah. Mr. Kaufman?
But that's not been my experience last year at Pennachuck. We went in on one of those scheduled days and found ourselves with a minder watching us and interjecting themselves in the middle of a discussion we were trying to have. So my experience is not just an escort, but rather what I felt was a very intrusive interjection of a person into my ability to speak directly to the principal, in that case acting principal, on that particular day. So I found that objectionable. I brought that to the superintendent's attention at that time. So to be escorted to and from a destination, I don't have a problem with that. But I do have a problem if I'm speaking with someone that, to me, is a private conversation and should not be minded by any administrator. In this case, it was an assistant superintendent.
Okay, Ms. Van Twyver?
My experience has been that I've never been escorted. When I went and helped out at 21st Century at 2 different schools, I was never escorted, and I don't think I should have to be.
Is that not after school?
Yeah, but even during the day, if I had to go in, I was never escorted, so.
Okay, thank you. I mean, I will say my experience has been both. It depended on the purpose of my visit. I've had guided tours, and I've had, people show me here's where the room is where you're going. So to me, I guess these are quibbles about whether or not we should approve the policy as a whole. So, and I'm sorry, Mr. Garno, I've lost track. Did you make a motion?
I did make a motion to approve
Okay.
this policy.
Okay.
Give me a second.
Yes, are there any other motions? No.
But you're going to have to include an amendment to accept the proposed changes, especially those made by Ms. Porter.
Okay.
So I make an amendment to include the grammatical changes that I listed.
So you move to make the grammatical, you move to amend the motion to include the
yes,
grammatical
thank you.
changes
Thank
that
you.
you listed.
Thank you.
Usually, Madam President, editorial changes are just accepted.
That's what I thought as well.
No, they're not, they don't change the substance of,
Okay.
okay. All right, so never mind.
Okay, well, with that
Their editorial.
knowledge of precedent, let's move on. All in favor of,
Roll call, please.
okay. Mr. Guarino, could you call the roll?
Sure. On the motion to approve policy ECAR, District Security Procedures as amended, Mrs. Oden,
Yes?
Ms. Raymond,
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman,
No.
Ms. Van Twyver,
Yes.
Mr. Guarino votes yes, Ms. Hohensie,
No.
Ms. Timmons,
Yes.
Ms. Porter.
Yes.
I have 2 noes and 6 yeses. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Guarino.
Okay, with the acceptance, with the approval of ECAR, we have policy 1110, school visits, an old policy, and the recommendation was to rescind it. So I move to rescind policy 1110, school visits.
Second?
Mr. Guarino, I have a quibble. On the piece of paper that you handed out, there are 4 ones and a 0, but on your
Oh,
motion,
I-
there's only 3.
I apologize. And make
And
it-
on the agenda, I think there's only 3,
Alright.
so it's probably my fault.
So it's 11110.
4
school
ones,
visit-
okay.
School visits.
Just want to make sure that we're rescinding the appropriate thing.
I apologize for that.
Okay. Any discussion? Seeing none, are we wanting a roll call or voice vote? Okay. Okay. All those in favor of rescinding 11110, please say aye.
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 All those opposed? Hearing none, it carries 7-0.
Okay. Our next item that came from our policy is JHC, student release precautions. The changes to this are shown in the handout. So I am going to move to approve proposed policy JHC, student release precautions.
I'll second it.
Ms. Oden?
I have one concern about this. It's the second paragraph. At the elementary level, when a student is to be dismissed, the parent is requested to pick up the child, sign a logbook in the school office, and I would like to see the word required replace the word requested.
Ms. Porter?
I think that's a good idea. Thank you.
Motion to amend would be good.
Does she have to do? Okay.
Yep. Can I add one thing to your motion to amend? Parent or guardian, because I'd like to be inclusive of our families.
Would you like me to make that motion?
Would you mind?
No.
Can you include my quibble too?
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay. In policy JHC, I would like to move to amend the second paragraph to read, at the elementary level, when a student is to be dismissed, the parent or guardian is required to pick up the child and sign a logbook in the school office.
Second.
Okay, I have a question now. What if there's a designee, like a person on the emergency contact list?
Isn't that in the last paragraph?
Okay.
If a parent or guardian requests any person not previously designated for pickup to pick up their child, the staff in the office must check the individual's identification.
Okay. I don't know. No? I'm feeling like maybe we need to say, or previously authorized designee or something. Or maybe we send it back to have them work on it some more. I don't know.
I would move to send it back to committee and let them take care of it, rather than us wasting our time tonight.
Okay. Mr. Guarino, would you be comfortable with that, pulling it back?
Sure, I will withdraw my motion. You withdraw your amendment, Ms. Oden?
Yes.
And I will withdraw my motion to approve policy JHC.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Guarino.
Okay, since we haven't approved JHC, rescinding policy 3241 would go along with it, so I would imagine that we would wait on rescinding this. Okay? All right, so our last item from Policy Committee is Policy JLF, Child Abuse and Neglect, Safety, and Well-Being of Children. This is another policy that has gone back, that has been in Policy Committee for a while, and we've gone over it in committee, so I'm not going to go over it in detail. There's a lot of changes here. So I'm going to move to approve I'm going to move to approve policy JLF, Child Abuse and Neglect, Safety, and Well-Being of Children.
Second.
Who said second?
Ms. Van Twyver.
Van Twyver, okay.
And Ms. Porter?
Okay. On the second paragraph from the bottom, the first sentence is a little confusing. I'm not sure what the intent was. The principal or administrator of each school shall post a sign in a public area within the school that is readily accessible to students. There's no punctuation. A sign that is provided in an electronic, so you can read the rest of that. I think that sentence needs some wordsmithing.
Looks like that paragraph is a sentence.
Okay, Ms. Fitzpatrick or Ms. O'Gara?
Go ahead.
Ms. O'Gara?
Go ahead.
I think it's accepted word for word under the RSA that it falls under for that sign. It's RSA 18972.
So that was just cut and pasted here, so the RSA has that weird...
Yeah, we should probably fix it though.
Yeah.
Okay.
You could put a comma after students.
No, it's not
No,
enough.
it needs some work, but
Are you willing
I don't
to...
want to change the intent of it. It's just,
Right, are you willing to... Are there other grammatical issues in this policy? Okay.
The run-on sentence.
Yeah.
yeah.
Can we just strike from in between students and A and all the way down to, make it say, shall post a sign in a public area that is accessible to the students that contains the telephone number? Can we strike all that in the middle and just be done with it and move on? Or
The
no?
sign has to come from DCYF.
Okay, then I suggest we let you guys play with the words at policy again. Sorry. Mr. Guarino?
Would you like me to withdraw
can't-
to go back to committee?
I do.
Okay, I will withdraw my motion.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm just
That's
looking
okay.
at the time.
Yep.
Can I make a question? I'm just asking, we had a policy that came through last year when Ms. Raymond was the chair about aiding and abetting sexual abusers. I was wondering when that was going to come out. It's got to be many months, 4, 5, 6 months. Since we looked at it, it came unanimously out of committee. We haven't seen it at the full board yet.
Yes, Dory Clark over at the Corporation Counsel's office
Gave
was
a
reviewing it,
response.
and then she wrote back to us.
But we didn't get it at the full board.
But she had said that there was something going on at the state level. I don't recall. I'm going to have to look it up in my email.
Okay.
So I apologize. I'm not recalling if I sent it on to Mr. Corino or if there was something missing. I don't remember
I
off the
think it
top
was
of my head.
prior to Mr. Guarino taking chair.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it.
Okay, I'll look it up.
Thank you.
Wait, let me write it down. Do you have anything else, Mr. Guarino?
No, I think that's it. We have recommend rescinding policy 4400, child abuse and neglect, but that goes along with approval of JLFR, but that's going back to committee, so I'm not going to have any action on that.
Okay. Okay, are we ready to move on to curriculum? Excellent. Ms. Porter?
Okay, so I don't remember the date that we met, but we met a week or two ago. The best part was we invited the New Hampshire Kid Governor, Lola Gianelli. She's a 5th grade student at Sunset Heights. Her teacher is Mrs. Foreman. And we also had Mrs. Janess join us. She is the state coordinator of New Hampshire Kid Governor, and she is also a Nashua School District teacher. So that was great. We talked about American Sign Language being added as a course offering at World Languages at middle and high school. Mrs. Fitzpatrick supplied us with a cost analysis that was included in our packet. No action was taken in the committee, but that information is going forward to our board president and to Dr. Mosley for discussion and further review. And I'm also going to follow up with the CTE department to see if that's something that could be included in their curriculum. The next thing on our agenda was cursive, and no motion came from the curriculum committee regarding cursive. We had an ELA pilot update from Mrs. St. Pierre and Mrs. Anderson. I attended the first pilot selection committee meeting as the board rep on March 6th. The next meetings are going to be on March 13th and 27th. There was a broad cross-section of participants, and maybe Dr. McKinney can help me to remember. The makeup of the committee includes people from every school and middle school. Help me.
All 12 elementary schools, the middle schools, an administrator, an ELL teacher, a special educator, and a reading specialist.
And me. Yes.
And
a board
last
member.
but not least, Mrs. Porter.
That's right. What an amazing group of people. It was just a great day. We were there from 8 o'clock to 3 o'clock, and I can say honestly that people were engaged for the whole time. And thank you to the many people who are participating in the pilot process. It's quite an undertaking. And our next meeting of curriculum will be on March 18th at 5:30.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Porter. Ms. Van Twyver.
Yes, I have a question regarding the state tests. Are they being done this month?
Dr. McKinney?
SAS? State assessment?
The state testing window is open from March until the first week in June.
Thank you.
I have a follow-up question to that. Does each school district get to decide which week, or does the state tell us?
Each school we have an assessment calendar where we collaborate with technology to make sure we have the resources we need. They sign up and they can test either early in the window or later in the window.
Interesting, thank you. Okay, and then I have on here, Ms. Hohensee, you wanted to discuss cursive.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to move to add a district standard for cursive to instruct grade 3 times a week for 20 minutes a day as time permits. If I have a second, I'd like to talk to it.
Second.
Thank you. There's no state standard when Common Core came in. In the wake of that, there was a statute that came in at the state level encouraging districts to instruct in cursive, also to encourage the memorization of math tables, which is also not in Common Core. So these are things that they admonish us that would be beneficial for our students, but it's not mandatory. Otherwise, it would be an unfunded mandate under the Constitution 28A. But if a district wants to add a standard for our own use, and if we include this standard as time permits, this gives us the flexibility to at least teach students to be able to decipher script so they can read historical documents and be able to write their name on a check or a legal document. I think those are basic, fundamental things that an educated person would want to know. So I would just encourage the board to add this. I'm moving to add a district standard for cursive to instruct grade 3 students 3 times a week for 20 minutes a day as time permits.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that last, to instruct grade 3
I
students?
move to add a district standard for cursive to instruct grade 3 students 3 days a week, 3 times a week, 3 days, however they want it, at 20 minutes a day
20 minutes.
as time permits.
Ms. Timmons, and then...
Thank you, Madam Chair. I can't support that motion because we already went through that once, and we had the educators here at this particular meeting that said that it would jam their day. I'm certainly not going to support that motion at all. We do not need to tell our educators how to conduct their business during the day. They are already jam-packed with their own curriculum and their own values. So I don't think it's good to tell them what to do and when to do it and how to do it.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Timmons. I'm sorry, Dr. Mosley and then Ms. Oden.
Thank you. For someone who actually writes exclusively in cursive, I can understand that perspective. However, I want to get back to some of the past practice that have plagued this district, and I don't want to repeat that again. Number one, it's sprung right here at the board without any conversation with building principals, no conversation with the teachers, and more importantly, if you're putting this in, then what's coming out? They can't do it all. They can't. So if you're going to put cursive in, then something has to come out, and that has to have a deeper discussion. The third piece of this is, more importantly, what's the cost for professional development for this? Who's paying for this? What materials are we going to use? And how is this being rolled out? And that if this is rolled out the way that we're practicing this, it's a disaster. It's a recipe for disaster. So I would encourage the board not to vote for this because it is not something that has gone through the vetting process, but more importantly, it hasn't had the feedback necessary at the educator level to really get that to be done with fidelity. But more importantly, I think this district has to move away from springing things on teachers at this board without any type of consideration of what their schedules look like during the regular day. These teachers are doing, and again, I'm not even going to do justice to it. You got English, math, history, social studies, science, reading, morning classroom, recess, transition, lunch. I mean, their schedules are fairly compact. And so we don't want to just have a situation where we mandate it at the board, but it can't be followed through at the school level. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mosley. I have Dottie, and then I see Howard, or Mr. Kaufman. I'm sorry, I'm using first names here because it's getting late. Ms. Oden, Mr. Kaufman, and then Mr. Carino. Remember
Okay.
your order.
Number one, I didn't like the motion and the fact that it stated it had to be done in grade 3. As somebody who has taught cursive writing, I always started it in 2nd grade in January, the beginning of the year, and I'll tell you, it was one of the most enjoyable things to teach because every child could be successful at it. But Common Core has changed a lot. We have a lot more testing. A lot of the curriculum has changed. It has taken a lot of PD I don't see a lot of professional development in teaching cursive. I know when I learned the Zahner Bloser, it was you had a book and you followed it. It wasn't anything that needed a lot of PD. I didn't even think that was necessary. A school district could develop their own. But teachers today just have so much pressure on them, and I think Dr. Mosley's right. You have to say what's coming out. 20 minutes, 3 times a week is an hour. For some of these teachers that have students that are working below grade level in reading or math, that's where they probably want to spend that time. And I would want to, before I would vote to support this, I would want to hear from our teachers, especially the teachers in either second grade or third grade. And I think that itself could be a decision. Where do you want to teach this? So I can't support that at this time until we get feedback from our teaching staff. So that's where I stand on this.
Thank you, Ms. Oden. Mr. Kaufman.
It's unfortunate Dr. Mosley left the room. I wanted to respond to something he said. He said that, it's kind of sprung up at the board. Well, the fact is, if you go back several months, I believe it was originally on the agenda for December, and that meeting was canceled. So we've been actually waiting quite a few months to discuss this. Teachers who chose to come to I was at the curriculum meeting when this was discussed. We had 2 curriculums, I want to be correct, curriculum specialists, I believe they are, that dealt with the elementary schools in particular. And their reasoning for not including cursive was because it wasn't required by the state regulations and this whole thing about time. My concern is, I think our children should learn how to sign their name and, as Ms. Hohensee said, read historical documents. Back in the day, if you couldn't read, you marked your documents with an X. And we all know that a lot of people didn't know how to read because of other extreme situations that took place in our history. And I don't want our current kids to be at a disadvantage. I had a side conversation with Mr. Marcoux about this, I think it was the last board meeting or maybe another time, and he pointed out that he just did a mortgage via an electronic signature, and he didn't really foresee the need for our students to have to sign their name in the future. And okay, well then rebut me later on. Good. And the point is, I believe our students should be able to write their names, sign their names. I think Ms. Hohensee's motion is a little bit specific, almost too specific, but the point is clear. This is more a vote, do you want cursive or not? And in that regard, I'll be supporting the motion.
Thank you. I have lots of hands, so let's just go in order. Thanks, Mr. Guarino.
Thank you, Madam President. I agree that children need to learn to sign their name. And what is happening in our public schools in Nashua is that children are learning to sign their name. And I know that from a personal experience, as my children know how to sign their name. They went from kindergarten to high school, and they can do that. Now, hand-eye coordination, there's the argument, hand-eye coordination. Hand-eye coordination happens for children when they put pen to paper or pencil to paper. It doesn't have to be cursive, okay? The other thing about historical documents, I don't know, unless you're an expert or you're going to that field, historic archives, I don't really see average person reading the Declaration of Independence, but I think that our children are learning cursive, okay? And I think that Dr. Mosley makes a very good point. Feedback from teachers. We have to not be out of touch what's happening within our schools. There are some people on this board that are out of touch with what's happening in our schools. And in order to be in touch, we have to talk to our teachers, worked through the committees, the curriculum committee, and this went through the curriculum committee, and this is an attempt to go around the curriculum committee. So,
Excuse me.
So I am not going to support, I'm not going to support this.
Thank you, Mr. Guarino. Ms. Van Twyver, and then I would like to hear from Dr. McKinney before we have a second. Did you speak? You spoke to your motion briefly.
I just want to adjust the motion.
Oh, okay.
Are you calling on me?
Yes.
This was brought to us, this request was brought to us by a citizen, came to talk to us about, in September. It did not go through the curriculum committee. It was never discussed in the curriculum committee. Not last year when it was scheduled, so there was no...
No, excuse me, one person.
One person came?
No, one person at a time speaking, please.
Oh. Well, usually when we have a topic like this, the assistant superintendent for the committee brings in teachers or other people, reading specialists, to discuss this. This has gone away from this committee stuff anymore. We don't see that. So, and I don't know what subjects are taught in elementary. Maybe we should request that knowledge, what subjects are taught. And if I know that they're not, I know that they don't teach cursive across the board. I know that for a fact. So, Mr. Guarino's children may have been taught, maybe by Mrs. Oden, who knows? But I don't believe all our students do. And it used to be a mark of educated people that they could write in cursive and that they didn't have to make an X for their name. And in an electronic signature, it still has to be verified. So I don't think I would never be dependent upon an electronic signature. I don't think that that's going to pay, because you still have to have a notary. So I am going to vote for this, and I will push for it as long as I can, because I think it's important. I think it's beautiful handwriting is important today, I think. So,
Point of order.
Yes.
Move to continue the meeting till all agenda items are complete.
Second.
Okay.
It's after 9 o'clock.
There's only one motion on the floor at a time.
I believe...
That's not true, sir.
Yes, it is.
I would prefer that we not argue about motions at this time. Mr. Kaufman is correct to move to continue the meeting. I do believe that it's important that we get through some of the items on our agenda this evening, and I apologize if this runs a little later than we would prefer. Anyone who needs to is welcome to leave, especially if you have to get up bright and early in the morning. But I would like to take a vote on Mr. Kaufman's motion to continue, and then go back to Ms. Van Twyver and make sure that she was able to complete her thoughts. Okay? Any objections? No. Can we have a voice vote on continuing the meeting?
I'd like to know what the motion is.
Okay. Could you please restate your motion?
Motion to continue the meeting until the agenda is completed.
I'm not going to support that. We could be here till midnight or 1 o'clock arguing about
That's
this.
what it takes to be a board member, Mr. Guarino. You made the rule
Okay, excuse
to
me.
suspend the meeting
Wait,
at
wait,
9
wait.
o'clock. You required that the vote at 9 o'clock. It's after 9 o'clock.
You're still
I'm just
talking. You're
following
still
policy.
talking.
Mr. Kaufman and Mr. Guarino, enough. I'm calling the question.
What question are you calling?
I'm calling the question regarding continuing the meeting. We do need to have a vote on whether or not to continue the meeting. So let's do that. Mr. Kaufman's motion is to continue it until we complete the agenda.
For the second?
Could I ask for voice vote, please?
Roll call, please.
Certainly. Mr. Guarino.
I didn't hear a second.
I second it.
Okay. Okay, on the motion to continue the meeting until the end of the agenda.
Can I
Go ahead.
I would make a motion to continue for 30 minutes. I will not support it.
Okay.
with
The
no
motion
time
is
limit.
on the floor and it's
Right,
been
we know
called to
that.
the question.
We know that.
Okay, thank you. Ms.
Time
Oden.
to vote.
This gives away our rights under
Mr.
Robert's
Guarino,
rules.
Mr. Guarino,
Under Robert's
I
rules, we
called
have
the
a right
Session
to
has been
adjourn.
canceled.
Okay, 5-minute recess. Okay, it is 9:15. We are back in session. On the floor is the vote to call the question on whether or not we are going to end discussion and vote on Mr. Kaufman's motion to extend the meeting. Ms. Oden had asked for a roll call vote on call the question. She's not back yet, but we're going to go.
I asked for it.
Oh, Mr. Kaufman also asked for a roll call vote. Mr. Guarino?
Do you want to wait for Mrs. Oden?
I do not.
Okay.
Okay.
Are you ready for the roll
It's
call?
9:17 now. I don't want to wait.
Madam President, would you like me to take the roll?
Yes.
Okay, on calling the question, Mrs. Oden is not here. Ms. Raymond?
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman?
Yes.
Ms. Van Twyver?
Yes.
Mr. Guarino votes no. Ms. Hohensee?
Yes.
Ms. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Porter?
Yes.
We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 yeses, 1 no.
Now the vote is on whether or not to continue the meeting to complete the agenda. Did I say that correctly, Mr. Kaufman? Okay. I
Roll
believe-
call, please.
And I don't see Ms. Oden back, so hopefully she'll walk in. Oh, here she comes. Nope.
Nope.
Okay.
Are you ready for the roll call, Madam President?
Yes, please.
On the motion to extend the meeting to the end of the agenda.
She's
We-
not here.
Can we skip and come back to her, or is that not allowed?
Okay, yeah, I can do that.
Okay, so the
Okay.
motion is to extend the meeting to end the agenda,
To complete the agenda.
complete the agenda. I say yes. Who's next?
Well, it's a roll call, so waiting for Ms. Oden.
I know, I'm the next person.
Oh, sorry. Oh, okay, well, he has to call the names. Go.
Are you ready, Madam President, for the roll call?
Yes.
Okay, on the motion to extend the meeting to the end of the agenda.
To complete the
Mrs.
agenda.
Oden?
No.
Ms. Raymond?
Yes.
Ms. Kaufman?
Yes.
Ms. Van Twyver?
Yes.
Mr. Guarino votes no. Ms. Hohensee?
Yes.
Ms. Timmons?
I have a question. Completing the agenda, is that each item going to take a half an hour or more? Because then it's going to be an issue.
You just, at this point,
So-
you just have to vote.
I have to think about it.
Okay?
What was that vote?
No vote.
She's going to think about it.
Oh.
Yes,
Ms.
I'm
Porter?
thinking about it. I didn't vote. I'm skipping for the,
Porter?
Yes.
Ms. Timmons?
no.
So it's over.
We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 yeses, 1, 2, 3 noes. I believe that this is a change of the rules, so you need a 2/3 vote for the change of the rules. So it should fail.
No, 2/3 for the vote. What are we changing? 2/3 is for when you take away people's rights.
Yeah, we don't need 2/3 to extend.
Actually, you need 2/3 of vote to change the rules. You change the rules. The rules are that individuals under Robert's rules have the right to adjourn. You're taking away people's
Wait,
rights.
Mr. Guarino, this vote was to extend our meeting to complete our agenda. It is not a change of the rules. Our rules require a vote to extend the meeting. That's what our own rules require. So at this point, if anyone chooses to leave at any time because they feel that they can't stay here any longer, I understand, and when we no longer have a quorum, we no longer have a quorum. But I am not going to continue to argue over a vote. So, moving on.
Okay. Okay.
Ms. Van Twyver, you were completing your thought regarding cursive writing
Yes.
when we needed to
Yes.
make this motion to continue our meeting.
I don't have anything more to say except for the fact that I believe it's important that people learn how to write cursive. It's a sign of an educated person, and there are other benefits to it. I just think it should be done, and something could be eliminated, I'm sure, from the day of training to squeeze in 20 minutes of cursive. And I don't believe that every student is learning it, no matter what Mr. Guarino says, that his child has learned it. So
Okay.
that's all I have to say. Just trying to reiterate.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Van Twyver. Mr. Guarino, I have a list of persons.
Sure.
Ms. Honsi, I know that you had wanted to alter your motion, but Mr. Eid and Ms. Scales had also asked to speak, and since it is getting quite late, I would like them to go, unless your change is something drastic.
No, I just want to shorten it.
Okay, so Mr. Eid, Ms. Scales, and then you may do what you need to do with your motion.
So I actually use kind of a mix between cursive and non-cursive when I write, and I do see the benefits of it. And it's not necessarily about having to force students to be able to write in cursive, but more just at least being able to read documents. It doesn't have to be even historical documents like the Declaration of Independence or the Constitution, even though those things are important. But just literally any other thing that's handwritten in cursive is an important thing to be able to read. So maybe it doesn't have to be 3 times a week for 20 minutes, but I do definitely see the benefits of being able to read cursive.
Thank you, Mr. Eid. Ms. Scales.
I believe there are many benefits to being able to read cursive and write cursive. I do think it should still be part of the curriculum. I know I have friends that can't read or write cursive, and when teachers do write it, they're like, okay, I don't know what that says.
Okay.
And I think that you should be able to read your teacher's handwriting and know what it says. And I also believe that maybe it doesn't have to be required in the curriculum, but maybe it could be taught, but then, thank you, incorporated into the curriculum, but it would be part of different lessons like English and history and science. So maybe the teachers could tell the students to write in cursive when they're doing their assignments after they have taught them how to write in cursive, of course, but not make it a specific time of the day on certain days of the week.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Scales. Ms. Hohensee?
Thank you. I would like to have a friendly amendment to just shorten it. Move to add a district standard for cursive as time permits.
As time.
Second.
That way,
Second.
we get rid of the grade, we get rid of how many times a week, we get rid of the time. It's totally flexible. The teacher has the flexibility as time permits.
Okay. Can I ask you a question, Dr. McKinney? Have our curriculum specialists looked into the time it would take to create a curriculum for cursive, or the costs associated therein, or the PD required for our teachers to start teaching it?
Not a detailed proposal, no. They have not.
Is that something that could be done?
I think that was presented at the meeting. Didn't they give a cost to implement it?
No.
No,
I remember that.
there was no
I
cost,
thought it was
no.
ridiculous.
So, I'm sorry, Dr. McKinney.
I would just advise the board that in the minimum standards, the educational plan for the district falls in the purview of the superintendent, curriculum instruction and assessment. It is the superintendent's responsibility to design the educational plan that meets the needs of the students. I caution the board for coming forward at adopting standards every 2 months is really going to be a challenge for the district for us to move forward, because we'd have a new standard. You're talking more money, more PD, everything else. I would advise the board to make a request to the superintendent to bring back further information regarding the optional instruction of cursive, if that's what the board so desires. But in all the curricular demands and priorities across this district, this is not one of them. If you recall, one gentleman came to the board, he shared his letter, you've heard from 2 curriculum specialists, you heard from a teacher. They are asking for the gift of time to focus on all the other things. And those things are the topics that are outlined in the elementary student handbook and the curriculum, which is available online. So I would just caution the board with the precedent of adopting standards if this board is invested in moving this district forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. McKinney. I'd like to say that for me, it makes me very uncomfortable to adopt something that hasn't been fully vetted through the curriculum committee. That's why we have committees to do that work, so that I don't have to. So, Ms. Porter?
I think this went through the curriculum committee and no motion came forward. I think it's important to state that just because there's not a standard does not mean that cursive is not being taught. Many teachers are teaching cursive, and I am extremely uncomfortable sitting in this room adopting a standard. I think that there should be a full study going forward, but I have to say that in all of the things, all of the issues facing our district, I have said this before and I'll say it again, I don't think that cursive goes to the front of the line. It's not that I hate cursive. I love cursive, but.
Okay. Briefly, please, Mr. Kaufman.
Thank you. I want to thank our student representatives for staying a little bit later than expected and adding your valuable input into this. I find it amazing that our students find the value of knowing how to read and write cursive, and there are board members and administrators in this district who do not.
Let's just vote, okay?
Okay, are we, you're calling the question, Ms.
Yes,
Timmons?
I'm calling a question. We need to vote, because we'll be here till doomsday trying to argue whether we should have it or not have it. I think we should vote and then move on.
Okay, roll call, please, on call the question.
On calling the question, Mrs. Oden,
No.
Ms. Raymond,
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman,
Yes.
Ms. Van Twyver,
No.
Mr. Guarino votes yes. Ms. Hohensee,
Yes.
Ms. Timmons,
Yes.
Ms. Porter,
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 yeses and 2 nos. Okay, so we're going to call the question. And the motion is to add a school district standard for cursive to instruct.
No.
Excuse
It
me?
was
No.
Move to add,
Move to add a school district standard for cursive to instruct.
no, to move to add a district standard for cursive as time permits.
I was going to say that,
It got rid of all the middle stuff.
No to instruct, just as time permits.
as time permits, okay. All right.
Okay.
On the motion, Mrs. Oden,
No.
Mrs. Raymond,
No.
Mr. Kaufman,
Yes.
Ms. Van Twyver,
Yes.
Mr. Guarino votes no. Ms. Hohensee,
Yes.
Ms. Timmons,
No.
Ms. Porter,
No.
I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 noes and 3 yeses. Motion fails.
Okay. Ms. Porter, did you tell us when your next meeting was?
March 18th
March 18th.
at
Thank you.
5:30.
Okay, great, thank you so much. Committee on Human Resources, Ms. Timmons.
Yes, thank you. I move to suspend the rules as the Human Resource Committee met today at 5:46.
Second.
Thank you. I'd like to move to accept the personnel recommendation dated 3/11/2019.
I second that.
Okay.
That's two motions. Which one are we doing?
Wait, the suspend the rules
Suspend the move.
to
Okay.
allow us to consider it is the one that I seconded.
Right. We got to vote on that. Let's
That's why I threw it in there.
do a consensus vote.
Sure.
On the motion to
Suspend the
Suspend
rules
rules
Right.
to
to
consider
allow, to consider personnel
recommendations
recommendations.
discussed today.
for
All
to-
in favor?
From today.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Great.
Okay. I'd like to move to accept the personnel recommendation dated today, 3/11/2019.
Second.
I'd like to request a voice vote.
Okay, yes.
Okay, on the motion to approve the personnel recommendations from today, 3/11/19, Mrs. Oden,
Yes.
Ms. Raymond,
Abstain.
Mr. Kaufman,
Yes.
Ms. Van Twyver,
Yes.
Mr. Guarino votes yes. Ms. Hohensee,
Yes.
Ms. Timmons,
Yes.
Ms. Porter,
Yes.
motion carries 7 yeses, 1 abstention.
Thank you. Anything further, Ms. Timmons?
No, our next committee meeting, I'm sorry, is March 25th,
Thank you very much.
5:45.
Okay, liaison reports.
Yes, thank you. We met, the student representative and I met on February the 20th, 2019. They pretty much discussed everything that we talked about. So our next meeting will be on April the 17th at 2:30 at the district office.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Timmons. The Ed Council meets later this week, so I will have an update at the next one. Mr. Eid.
Didn't we agree on 3, I think? We agreed on 3 o'clock on that day.
Okay, 3 o'clock is
Yeah.
fine.
That's all.
Okay. Are there any other liaison reports? Nope. Okay. Unfinished business. The first item on the unfinished business is a reapproval of the 2019-2020 district calendar. I understand that there was a miscount on academic days in September due to the mayoral primary. It's been suggested that we go ahead and have school on that day instead of having no school on the mayoral primary, which is September the 10th, and then that will make us have the correct number of days of school for the year of 180. Okay. So I would entertain a motion to approve this revised 2019-2020 school calendar.
Second.
I just asked a question. So we're taking out that day as a school day. We're not keeping it in?
It was a day off, and now it is a day in.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay. Voice vote or roll call?
Yes,
Does anyone care?
Voice.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Great. Okay. The next item is the Nashua School District Strategic Plan Survey Stakeholder Outreach. Dr. Mosley, I know you spoke to this a little bit in your comments earlier. Was there more information for us?
No, I actually forgot that I had put this on the agenda, so I just wanted to, again, put another plug out there to the public to please participate in the survey. It's on our website. All feedback is welcome, so that's all I wanted to do. I just wanted to thank Don and Sue Porter and Stacy for all their work. It's been a prodigious undertaking to get this survey out. So it's live and active. We're going to keep it open for about a month, and then we'll see what happens. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mosley. I would like to propose to the board, since our next 3 items in unfinished business are non-public, that we move that to the end of our agenda and take public comments and then board member comments at this time, and then we'll go into our non-public. Does anyone have any objections to that?
No objections.
Okay. Seeing none, can we go ahead and agree to that by consensus? Yes. Excellent. So then the next item, because we have done the JROTC already, would be public comments. Hello, Mr. Marcoux.
Hello.
Did anyone else sign up?
No.
Okay.
Adam Marcoux, 4 Jalori Lane. I'm president of the Nashua Teachers Union. I love cursive. I have the best cursive handwriting you'll ever see from a male. Even better than Dr. Mosley's.
Oh, he is horrible.
I have taught, what? I missed something. Inappropriate, right? Oh, sorry. I have taught cursive handwriting in monotony. It is not an easy task. You can't teach one letter without teaching the other 25. I have signed for bank documents and loans with a digital signature. What would you propose we take out of the elementary curriculum? Apparently, the curriculum, we need to educate board members on what we teach. Are you kidding? You sit on the board and you don't know what we teach? How are you elected to this board and make decisions for 1,000 kids at the 12 elementary schools, the 3 middle schools, and the 2 high schools, and you don't know what we teach? I can't believe I heard that in public tonight. That's appalling. And you're going to sit here and critique and criticize what we do and what we don't have enough time to do, and you have no idea what we do already? That's unbelievable. So we'll throw everything on the table, see what sticks, make changes to curriculum because we feel like it, and not get input from a single stakeholder. And then make a motion that we'll do it as we have time. In what grade level? Kindergarten? 12th? Like, seriously. I come to these meetings mainly for the entertainment, but it's just getting even worse. You're making decisions for my children, my 3 Marcoux children, and you don't know what you're talking about because you admitted it tonight that you don't know what we teach. And then you put words in my mouth about what I said about cursive. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Marcoux. We are going to go on to board member comments. I'm going to go around the circle in this direction. So we will start with Ms. Van Twyver and then
Thank you
Mr.
so much.
Kaufman. And
It was
this way.
quite a demonstration, Mr. Marcoux. Tell me, when was the last time that we discussed elementary curriculum in the curriculum committee? Tell me when the last time was. Been a long time, and I bet it was way back when Mrs. Susine was still here. So please, I don't know exactly what you teach in schools. I don't. So make a list for me, okay? Tell me what every school it has scheduled in the curriculum. No, I know you won't, because you don't want to embarrass yourself.
Okay.
Look, it is my job, sir.
All right. Let's not have this back and forth with the
Yeah,
audience.
we're not supposed
and
to
no,
respond to.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not supposed to respond, but
But
you know,
people are not
sometimes-
using microphones and we're not being
Yeah,
polite. So
well,
let's-
anyways, I want to say that I attended the symphony the other night, and it was absolutely stupendous. The symphony, didn't see anybody else there that I knew, but they do a marvelous job for our third graders, and they have a new program this year where they get to the third graders get to play with the orchestra. So I hope that you would get out and support this symphony because they do a marvelous job and they are stupendous. It was a marvelous night. In fact, I told them, I says, I could use one of their performances after every board meeting. But anyhow, that's about all I have to say.
Thank you, Ms. Van Twyver.
Yeah.
Mr. Kaufman.
Thank you. So I'd like to answer one of the questions that Mr. Marcoux just asked. What's my proposal to take out of curriculum and put in cursive? For me, it's social and emotional learning. Social and emotional learning is something that's not been fully discussed or vetted at the board. It's not part of any state standard, just like cursive is not part of any state standard. But we have time and investment to teach professional development and put it in curriculum that has never been brought to this board, but it's in there. We don't know what it is. So my answer to that question is social emotional learning. Yank it out, put in cursive. That's what I would say. And as far as being educated on curriculum, we attend these meetings. We look at the information that's given to us. The administration is the body, if I just say it that way, that educates the board on everything that that's filtered by the administration. So our ignorance is directly related to the amount of information and data we get from the administration. So curriculum is one soft area where it's lacking, as seems to be agreed upon tonight. Behavior is in another. This board chooses not to go deep on information like behavioral disciplinary issues in the district. I was having a conversation with someone earlier today who shared with me issues about the middle school I didn't know about. Ms. Oden talked about police being called in elementary schools, but this information has not come to the board. And you want to know things that we don't know, that's why we ask questions here. So I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kaufman. Ms. Hohensee.
Thank you. I'd like to reiterate that we do have trouble getting answers to questions. That's why we have to file right-to-know requests, and even still, we get ridiculed. And we don't get into, we're not allowed into the buildings the way we used to 2 years ago. I get police at my door when I post something on social media. Yeah, there's a problem with information here. There's a problem with free speech. There's a lot of problems. So the more information we get, the better we can make informed decisions. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Ms. Hohensee. I'll go last. Mr. Corino?
Thank you, Madam President. I do not have any problems getting answers in this district because people are nice to me in this district, and I ask them questions and they answer me. And I don't blame others because I don't have information. I actually use Google. I ask questions. I go to the open houses that our schools have. I talk to teachers because my children are in the district. I use my feet, and I talk to people. Social and emotional learning, I'm not an expert. I use Google, okay? We talk about a behavior problem on one hand, and we have social emotional learning on the other hand. All it is look at the title. They're trying to teach children to be in a social setting, to understand their emotions and try to curb behavioral problems that we have. So on the one hand, you complain about behavior. On the other hand, you don't want teachers to use tools to change that behavior. So it doesn't make any sense. It's nonsensical. But anyways, I'm going to talk about Nashua Sings in the South Concert, and I wish I was there, but I had to be at the Budget Committee meeting because we do have great musicians and singers in our district. And so I'm going to stop right there.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Corino. Ms. Oden? Okay. Ms. Porter? Ms. Timmons? Nothing? Okay. Well, then I will say my little piece. I just wanted to let the public know that on Thursday, the 14th at 6 p.m., if you're not coming here to our budget meeting at 6:30, please consider going over to the Elm Street Middle School. They're having a health and safety fair, and it looks like they're going to have a lot of really great information. Breathe New Hampshire and the New Hampshire Prevention Coalition will be there. There'll be a presentation on vaping. They'll be incorporated in that presentation is also how kids are sometimes using marijuana with vaping, and this is important information for our parents and community to know. Also, Sergeant Bob Powers with the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force will be there with Officer Desmet, one of our school resource officers, giving a great presentation on internet safety. And this presentation is geared towards parents who want to know how they can help their children stay safe on the internet. Really helpful for those of us who are older and don't intuitively know everything about the internet the way that our kids do. So please, if you aren't planning on coming here and talking to us, please consider going over to Elm Street. I wish I could go. And I think that's the only thing that I wanted to talk about this evening. So thank you all for listening. We do have a non-public, so what we'll do is we'll take a very quick recess while everybody clears out, and then we'll move on to our non-public for the evening. Thank you. Oh, wait.
We have to move to go into
We have to move to
non-public.
go into non-public.
So I move to go into non-public under RSA 91A3 2C. Matters which discussed in public would likely adversely affect the reputation of the person other than a member of the board.
Second.
Thank you.
Need a vote?
Yep. Are y'all comfortable with an voice vote? Is that a roll call? Oh, it has to be roll call. Okay, please call the roll, Mr. Guarino.
On the motion to go into non-public under RSA 91A 3(2)C, Mrs. Oden?
Yes.
Ms. Raymond?
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman?
Yes.
Ms. Van Twyver?
Yes.
Mr. Guarino votes no. Ms. Hohensee?
Yes.
Ms. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Porter?
Yes.
We have 7 yeses and 1 no. Motion carries.
Great. So we are in non-public at 9:46. Yes, that's correct, 9:46. And I will ask that we take a brief recess, unless we don't need one.
Don't need one.
It looks like everybody's clearing out.